Hello everybody, my name is Michael, and in today's video what we're going to be doing is this right here. So if that looks interesting to you guys, please carry on and watch the video. And also one more thing before we get into the video, if you enjoy what I do here, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. It really helps me out and lets me know you enjoy the video. But with all that out of the way, let's get into that video. Okay, so with our Glabrezu demon here, what I want to do is I'm going to try paint him up sort of like how the official artwork has it, and he's sort of a reddish burgundy colour, so I want to try and go with that. So I'm going to use a contrast paint starting off here. This is Blood Angels Red, and I want to give a coat over the entirety of the model here, really making sure I get into all of the little nooks and crannies all over the miniature. And the good thing too about the miniature here is this here is a WizKids Mini, and they come pre-primed, so we don't even have to worry about priming it, so we can go straight on with our contrast paint. And one good thing about contrast paint is it's sort of like a paint and wash in one, so you can use it all over and it's going to set nicely into those recesses where you want to, and it's going to leave a little bit of highlighted areas where the paint doesn't run into those recesses to give you variations in color, and that's what we want to do here. But because this is our first step, we're using it as a base coat and his base color is that reddish burgundy color, I'm just going to not worry about what I'm doing too much here. I'm just going to give a full coverage basically over the entirety of it, so I get a nice even coat with our contrast paint, and we're not worrying too much about getting things where we don't want to. We can be as messy as we want to in this first step. So now we have that contrast paint all completely dry. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with a khaki color, and this is going to be for painting the underbelly of our demon here. It's very undetermined what sort of color you want to do here, so it's totally up to you what you want to do. I went with sort of a khaki color. I'm going to sort of go up to a little bit of a brighter color. Like I said, I want to try and copy the sort of official artwork as much as possible, and it has a brighter underbelly sort of roughly around this color. This is as close as I could get to it anyway with the paints I had, and so I think it looks good too. It really bounces off the red we have here, giving it something visually interesting to look at while we're painting up here. So then when I had that underbelly painted, I was looking at the official artwork and I wasn't happy with the colour that I had chosen compared to trying to make it look a little bit closer. It was just too bright a red. So what I've done is I've come in with crusted, which is sort of a maroon burgundy colour, and I'm going to use that as my base coat instead of the Blood Angels Red. Now this is totally my decision here. You don't have to do this. The Blood Angels Red would also work just as great for doing this. It was just a little too red to me, and it was going to be a little too bright, so I wanted to darken that down, make it look a little bit closer to the official artwork, give it that more sort of deeper look. And that way too I also have an area to go with the highlights. I can highlight up, as the Blood Angels Red I think was just a little too bright for my liking, is using it as a base tone with that, because if I was going brighter and brighter it would start looking a little bit more pink and it wouldn't look demony to me. So that's why I'm coming back over here with our crusted saw. But totally up to you what you want to do here. If you want to make it look a nice big bright vibrant red, then by all means keep it with how we had it before, but I just wanted to darken it down, give it that more demonic sort of grim darky sort of look. Now I'm much more happy with the colour, which probably barely noticeable on camera, to be honest. I'm not 100% sure whether you can tell, but the main thing is I could tell it was annoying me, so I wanted to change it. But what I'm going to do now is I'm coming in with a brighter red. This here is Dragon Red, and I'm coming in and sort of stippling on highlights, highlighting areas that need to be highlighted, so like the edges of muscles, and just adding some little stippling bits to add texture over the skin. And this is why I wanted to come in with the darker colour and highlight up with our Dragon Red here, is because I don't have too much paints that were up higher in the red than my Dragon Red. I have a couple more, but that was just too much and it's a little bit harder to see, so I chucked the light on, as you can see here, so I could get a bit better understanding of what I was doing, and hopefully a bit better for you, so you can see that it was a little bit darker and you can see where the highlights are going on. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time and just highlight and stipple parts that I want to have highlighted, giving it an interesting texture all over the piece. Okay, so now we have all our highlighted areas in place. What I'm going to do is come in with a wash, and this is of course going to darken everything down. Now I'm using a brown wash here because I wanted it to be a little bit deeper and darker. Like I said, I'm going for more of a grim darky sort of appearance with this rather than the big bright demon that you see on sort of old school artwork. So I'm going with the brown, but if you wanted to keep it with the nice bright and vibrant red, you might want to go with a red wash here. And also too, with our wash, I'm going to wash it over the entirety of everything we've painted up so far, because I want to get that belly in there as well, and we can highlight that back up and make it look a little bit more interesting. But of course, like with anytime you do a wash, be careful for it pooling in some areas, so just pay attention to where you're placing it onto the model, and as well as the drying and watching where it pools where you don't want it to, so you can wick it up if you need to. Then once we have our wash completely dry, what I'm going to do is come in with skeleton bone. This here is a lighter khaki colour, and I want to use this for highlighting up our underbelly. And I'm just going along here, pretty scratchy, especially on that neck area. I want to give it some interesting sort of texture. And as well as that too, when we're doing over the chest, just keeping areas in mind where the sun is naturally sort of going to hit, except for it wouldn't be hitting here as he's hunched over, but we want to keep those areas bright, and we're just focusing sort of on the middle sections and leaving the very deepest parts of our model here with that original color, so we've got a difference between our highlights and our shadowed areas. So not painting over the entirety of the whole thing again, we're just leaving out those very deepest pieces to give us that interesting effect with our highlights. And then with our underbelly highlighted up, what I'm going to do is come back in once again with Dragon Red to place the highlights on our red areas. And this time I'm just being a little bit more careful where I'm placing these highlights, going a little bit smaller than our original areas of the highlights to add in that more definition in there. As well as that too, I'm also going to be stippling over areas. Some areas may cover where you've already done entirely. It doesn't matter, we want to use this for added texture and give variations in our color and our highlights. It's going to make it look so much more interesting. And just doing something like that, you'll be amazed at how much it can add that little bit extra to a piece. Then once we have that complete, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with some black yellow, and I'm going to be using this to paint in the eyes of our Glabrezu here. And as you can see, because I'm concentrating so hard, I'm not really in a frame of camera, and it's probably not in focus either, so I'm just being super precise here, trying to concentrate. Eyes are always a pain to do, and if you've given eye painting a try, you know the pain, but trying to do as much as you can do here, and that bright yellow is really going to look effective on the model. Then once we have those eyes painted in, what I'm going to do now is come in with some deck tan, and this here is going to be used to paint up the teeth of our Glabrezu here. Now I'm not worrying about painting the inside of the mouth, because I actually like the way it looked like when we've got that wash in there, as well as our contrast paint and our red color. It just looks right for me, and I think enough wash sort of pulled in there and darkened it way down that I didn't have to worry about too much about painting the inside of the mouth. But totally up to you. When you go here, maybe going with a bright pink or something in here could really give a nice eye-catching piece on the model, but I was quite happy with how it was here, so I just wanted to keep it the color that we had it before, and just painting in those teeth nice and bright, giving that the interesting focal point of the miniature. Then once we have that complete, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be painting in some of the horns on our Glabrezu here. Now I'm going to be focusing on the ones around his shoulder and his neck area, and these here I'm going to paint in a off black color, or I should say a light black color. It's a really dark gray color, and I want to use this as my base color, so I'm just going to go around and pick them all up. But the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the big pincer claws that our demon has here. I'm going to paint them up a different color, give it something interesting to look at. I know this isn't following the official art. The art has them sort of the same color as all the other spikes, but I want to add in more visual interest than that, so it's just a matter of going around and picking out all of those nice horns. Then once we have that complete, I'm just going to come in with a lighter grey here. This is basalt grey, which is a little bit lighter than our dark grey we used just before. And I'm just going to place them onto some highlighting areas, mostly focusing on the tips of our horns and going around and picking those out, making them look like they're sort of shining brightly in the sun and giving them something, just that little bit of extra oomph onto the actual piece rather than having them the one colour. So just going around and picking out all of those that were painted up so far. Then once we have those horns complete, what we're going to do now is I'm going to come on with some weapon bronze, and of course this is a metallic color, and I want to be using this for the armbands our demon has on him. So on his smaller underarms, he's got these nice little like gauntlet slash armbands on there. So I wanted to paint them up in a color. I didn't want them to be gold, I think that would be a little bit too bright, so I went with a bronze here, but totally up to you. You might want to go with a gold or even a silver, but I think the bronze here works really well off the red colors, because bronze has sort of a reddy tone in it anyway, so it's going to really help keep the piece sort of cohesive, but still having those little bits stand out on the model. Then once we have that complete, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with some desert yellow, this sort of a mustardy yellow color, and I'm going to use this for the big nice pincer claws our Glabrezu has on him here. And as you can see, by painting these up in a different color than the black, they really stand out as super eye-catching pieces, and that was what I wanted to go for here. In the official artwork that I found, they have the exact same color as the horns around their head and their neck and everything, and I just thought that was a little too plain. It looks cool in the artwork and everything, but I think it looks a little too dull on the miniature. I wanted to have something more visually interesting than that, so I'm going to go with some nice yellow claws here. And in hindsight, maybe I should have changed the eye color because they match up with the eyes. I don't know if that was a good idea on my behalf or not. Maybe painting the eyes in a green or just a bright white or something like that would maybe make the pieces stand out a little bit. I like the little cohesion it sort of has with the claws, but totally up to you what you could do here. You could easily change the eye color now, but I ended up by leaving them and just giving them sort of like a visual reference upon each other. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with our flat yellow again. This was the exact same color that I used for the eyes because they were nice and bright, and I want to use these for picking out the highlights on the claws. I'm going around and picking out all of those edges, just using the side of my brush here to pick them out and giving those nice sharp edges a nice bright yellow highlight. But this is what I was meaning, that with having the same color on the eyes and the claws, it could look a little samey. I'm quite happy with it, but totally up to you. I was just looking back when I'm doing the voiceover here, that if I had gone with maybe a different color eyes in the end, maybe it could have been something a little bit more visually interesting, give you that reason to look over the model a bit more. But I'm happy with it, and maybe you'd be too, but I just thought I'd put it in there that if you wanted to change that eye color, if you're following along with what I'm doing here, it might give you something more to look at over the model and just add in that extra color to make it look a little bit more interesting. And then once we have that complete, I'm going to come in with a final wash, and this is going to be Rin Flesh shade. This here is a flesh wash, so it's got these sort of redder tones in it, and I want to use that to go over our metallics that we painted in before, giving them a look all overall red. But the main thing I want to use this for is our claws. Giving them that red wash over top is really going to help, as you can see, immediately make them stand out a bit more, and you can even see the difference in those highlights we placed in, immediately making them pop out and look way more interesting. So with that there, we want to let that dry, and then that will be the completion of our piece. So let's go on to those glamour shots and see how it came out in the end with it all painted up and finished. And with all that complete, we have finally finished painting up a Glabrezu demon from the wizkids miniature line by Dungeons and Dragons. So I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, whether you want to follow along with what I did here, or you just want to use this video as some inspiration in painting up your own miniatures. With all that said, guys, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next video.